Welcome to Secrets from the Saddle podcast. I'm Sylvie Dow, your host, fellow cyclist, bike club founder, cycling coach, bike race junkie, just truly super passionate about cycling. My journey with cycling started 20 years ago when I opened a spin studio, started a women's race team, and founded a women's only cycling club called Cycle Fit Chicks. I'm super thrilled to reveal all aspects that make the world of cycling operate. I'm so excited to be able to bring you interesting people from around the world, pro cyclists, recreational cyclists, coaches, event organizers, bike shop owners, everything and everyone you need to know or ever wondered about when it comes to cycling. I know you'll enjoy this episode. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, All Things Cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie Dow. And it's so good to be back. I just want to say being back because this is the first episode recording in the new year, depending on when you hear this. But Kai Luan, I met at Unbound XL. He and his friends were camping beside me at the campground, and I just had to go over and chat with him and ask him about his story because he is a para athlete. He lost his leg at the age in his junior year from osteosarcoma, which is a bone cancer that is very prevalent actually within adolescents and young adults and teens. I did not know that, and I was just looking through approximately 800 new cases of osteosarcoma are reported each year in the US. So, and the majority of them are between kids and teens. So we're going to hear Kai's story. I'm super excited to have him here. So this is a little bit of his background. Like I said, he is a para athlete. I met him at Unbound. I approached him with regards to being a guest on the podcast because I think it's really important to be sharing more stories from para athletes. Because a lot of people think that once you have a disability, there's nowhere for you to go and nothing for you to do. And that is just not true. Disabilities, like we're going to talk about dismemberment, like legs and arms, because there's always sport that you can go to. There's prosthetics you can get. And I'm just super excited to have him on the podcast. And so here he is. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Secrets from the Saddle, All Things Cycling podcast with your host, Sylvie Dow. And I am super excited to have on Kai Luan, who I met at Unbound XL or Unbound. We happen to be camping mates in the same campground, and I just had to go over and ask him if he would be a guest on the podcast, and you're going to know why right now. So at the age of 27, are you still 27 now? Or are you 28?
I'm 28 now.
You're 28.
Yeah.
Okay, 28-year-old Kai Luan was diagnosed with osteosarcoma. So that's a type of bone cancer. His junior year of high school, and underwent a right below knee amputation after multiple rounds of chemotherapy. A born athlete, Kai initially stopped pursuing athletics for several years after his amputation until college, when his friend let him try out his road bike. Okay, so we're going to be talking a lot about that. Since that day, Kai has never looked back and recently placed first in his category and fourth overall in paracycling for the 2023 US Cycling Sports Paracycling Nationals. An attorney by day and cyclist, climber, volunteer coach. In his free time, Kai hopes to increase the visibility of adaptive sports and encourage others to try new things. Welcome, Kai, to the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, it's great being here, Sylvie. It's been half a year since I'm
I
back.
know. I know. Finally. Finally we get him on here. I was so excited when I saw your the request invitation come in to be on the podcast. So I reached out to you for a reason, and the first question I want to ask you is like would you share with us your story on me being diagnosed with cancer? And then, if you want to share a bit of that journey, and then leading into the invitation from your friend to try his bike.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I was around junior year. That would have put me at like 16 or 17.
Wait, 20 years ago, 10 years ago,
a, a decade.
a decade ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So uh, at that point, my main sport was martial arts.
Mm,
So specifically Tang Soo Do, there was a local
mm.
martial arts instructor where I lived in on the south side of Chicago. So I've been going there ever since I was 5 years old. So from like 5 to 17, martial arts was like my main sport. Um, and I won age group nationals in that, and I was preparing to go to my first international competition actually. Um, and then that's when I was diagnosed. It came out. At first, I thought it was just like a swollen ankle, because
Oh,
osteosarcoma basically starts turning softer tissue harder tissue, so you can't move it as much. So I thought, oh,
oh,
probably just like sprained my ankle or something. I injured it during practice. Um,
wow.
and then I was like, all right, I'll just let it sit, let it heal. And then 3 weeks went by, um, and it still hasn't changed. If anything, it got worse. So I was like, at that point, I was like, all right, I should probably go see a sports doctor or something about that. We ended up getting an X-ray, and then they took a biopsy, which showed osteosarcoma, and we went through the whole phase of like several rounds of chemotherapy, and then an amputation, and then a few more rounds of chemotherapy afterwards.
So
So
can I ask, like, has chemo ever reversed, like, help somebody save a limb, or is amputation always kind of like the result of it?
so I actually had two options. The first one was amputation, which I went with, and
Yeah,
then other option was called a bone replacement. So they would take out, it was in my lower tibia. So
yeah,
they would take out the bone and then put like, I think it's like hard plastic or something in as a replacement. And
yeah,
then it would be a stand-in for where the rest of my tibia would have been. Um,
yeah.
so for below the knees, those are the two main options. Um, so yeah, I think I'm very happy I went with the amputation. I think
Yeah, that doesn't sound like it would be overall really
it
good.
definitely like I remember asking the doctor like which one will allow me to lead a more active lifestyle. It's definitely
Yeah.
the amputation route. So I was like, all right, cool, let's just go with that.
Oh, and tell me, you weren't that cool when you said that. Like, you must have been kind of like, oh my God, what am I gonna do? Kind of
It was
thing. Like, how
definitely
did you feel at that time?
it was a mix of like anxiety, for sure, nervousness,
Yeah.
um, and you know, with surgery, you never know what's going to come as a result. And
Hmm.
I've been very lucky in that, I still haven't had a recurrence. I was still going for checkups every few years or so at this point. And I still have like an annual cardio checkup because one of the chemo drugs I used was very heavy on the heart. So like
Mm.
for a few years right after chemotherapy, I had a low ejection fraction. So like my heart wasn't as effective as it should be. And I think actually cycling helped a lot with
Wow. All right. So you've gone with the amputation. Now you were off of all sports for a while. Was that like your mindset, like your, just your, like not even wanting, like just sort of the process of dealing with the new amputation before you even considered getting back into any kind of sports or finding or being offered that option? Like, how did you process that?
Um, yeah, I definitely kind of jumped back in as soon as I could, actually.
Oh,
So
did you? I think
yeah,
that's what I would do.
very thankful for Make a Wish. So they gave me my first like prosthetic. It
Awesome.
was designed for martial arts. So I tried to get back into it. I did it for like a year or two. And I realized like, part of me was like, I'll never get back to the level that I was at previously.
Hmm.
Because with prostheses, is they still haven't advanced to the point where like you can control it as well as an angle. So when it came to like balancing on the prosthetic and stuff, it made that a lot more difficult.
Wow.
I just switched to other things. I was a big longboarder for a while. I
Oh,
was those kids who longboarded to class in college.
yeah.
uh, so that was fun. And then I also picked up cycling in college as well.
All right. Well, let's talk about that. How did that happen?
Yeah. So one of my best friends, his name's David. We've known each other since we were 5. So it's been a long time. He got a road bike because he was out in California for an internship. And then when he came back, he brought the bike back with him. So I just tried it out. I distinctly remember it was a Fuji Roubaix. Um, you know, back in the, I think it was like what, a 9 or 10 speed aluminum rim brake bike. Because this is back in like 2015, 2016-ish, when they were like $600. You could buy any.
Yeah, no, seriously, eh?
So
Back
yeah,
when
I
you could
tried
afford
it.
bikes.
Yeah. And then like next week I went out and just bought one. So it was very uh yeah, I just fell in love with it really quickly. Cause like part of it is like I still don't enjoy walking that much. If I can avoid
Uh,
walking, I'll avoid walking. But being on a bike, there's a lot less pressure on the stump. Um,
mhm.
so like yeah, it just granted me like a new freedom that like I didn't have previously with just the prosthetic. Um, and it was way less tiring than longboarding. So
Right. You still have your knee, right? It's
yes,
just below the knee.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, okay, so so you say so explain the walking. Is it just because of the pressure? Is it because of the prosthetic? It's not as comfortable as I guess they all look or
um, no, I think I just dislike walking.
oh like okay, where's my longboard? Where's my
Yeah,
bike?
if I can avoid walking, I will.
That I was like, why would you stand when you can sit? Right. It's kind of like
It's
that.
not walking is not the most efficient way we can move. So
Right. Okay. So I've noticed you, like when I met you, I think you had a couple different prosthetics.
mhm.
And also when I was looking at your social media, you had a couple different ones. Now, I think I remember you when for Unbound you had a foot
Mhm.
prosthetic and a shoe. So you're clipped in, but I've seen other ones where you have like a more slender prosthetic and I think it fits into the cleat. How many prosthetics do you have?
Um, I've had, I think, close to 7 or 8 now. I've
Wow.
broken several things.
Oh,
So actually, fun story. Do you remember when GCN did Waters Bazookas a few years back on
no.
GCN? They would occasionally hand out these awards at the weekly GCN show for like the random user. So I actually broke one of my prosthetics at a crit in the final sprint. And one of
Oh
my
my God.
friends sent that in. So I was featured on GCN like way back when, which was really fun.
Oh my God. You didn't have like a big crash because of it.
No, it just cracked. So like I heard the snap, but like it didn't crack through all the layers of carbon fiber.
Oh
It just cracked
God.
through about half of them. But like either way, I couldn't use that foot anymore. I also broke a leg longboarding and then another one bouldering. rock climbing. So that's when I started getting more into the world of like getting a custom prosthetic for the sport. So I have one for rock climbing now, and I'm testing out a prototype for rock climbing. But I haven't had much time to go to the gym lately. And then for cycling, I'm on my second one for road, and also we're prototyping a new one for gravel as well. So the one that you saw at Unbound last year was actually one of my old walking prosthetics. What we did was
Okay.
most prosthetics will have like the feet will have like a foam or rubber foot around it just so that like it kind of looks like a foot that way it'll fit a shoe and fill it out a lot better than just like something really narrow.
Mm-hmm.
So we tore all of that out because it was an old foot and I wasn't using it anymore. And then what we did was we just drilled two holes into it and then mounted the SBD cleat directly onto it, um,
Okay. Onto the foot.
onto the foot. Yeah.
Oh. Oh my God. Could I know because we had all this big discussion afterwards about the mud. And I remember thinking about you when I was out there
Yeah.
and just like, oh, how you have been at the handle if you ended up walking in it and like it just getting like stuck all over your foot or your shoe or whatever. I was just like, oh my God, I hope he's okay.
Um, Funny story. I was not quite okay. So,
I don't think anybody was.
yeah. So for everyone else,
Share your story about the mud because everybody's like,
yeah. So I did the 100 mile at Unbound last year, and which meant by the time we hit the mud section, the 200 milers had already gone. Obviously,
oh
the
God.
XLs had already gone.
Yeah.
So I was in the mud for about 2.5 hours, probably for about 4 or 5
Hmm.
miles, um, which sucked. But like we did use design the leg specifically for Unbound and the possibility that there would be mud, which is why,
Really?
yeah.
Oh, wow.
We used an old foot instead of, so my usual cycling prosthetic for on the roadside is like you said, it goes straight down. There's a look cleat at the bottom of it for road
Okay. I've seen that one.
straight in. That way, you know, have any flex that you would have from like a carbon ankle, essentially. And there's
Right.
more direct power transfer. And it's also a bit
Oh.
lighter and a bit more aero, and you know, the usual bang when it comes to road cycling.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, so I was like, well, I can't do that at Unbound. Not when like the weather is so unpredictable and anything can
Right.
happen. So we took an old foot and screwed the SBD cleat directly into it. What ended up happening is, you know, after the mud section, around mile 80, give or take, I was about 20 miles away from the finish line. The mud at that point, you know, had pretty much dried.
Uh,
Unfortunately, when it dried, it kind of acted like glue and the cleat was stuck to the pedal. So when I tried to unclip for a bathroom stop, the cleat just ripped right out of the foot. Um,
oh no.
so the last 20 miles, I was clipped in on my normal leg side, and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
prosthetic side was essentially like kind of a flat pedal-ish as
Yeah.
well. I could keep the prosthetic on the what's left of the pedal. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a one-legged, you know, spinning drills for the entire 20 miles.
Well, at least you had like the foot, which
Yeah.
was able to press down on the cleat, regardless if your cleat was still stuck in the pedal.
Yeah. So I could
I would
press
imagine that would be a better option than having the straight piece and having that rip off.
oh yeah, that would be terrible.
That would have been a nightmare.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah,
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
I survived, and we're another leg for another year of gravel. So,
Are you going to resurrect that one or are you making a new one?
we're resurrecting that one and also making a new attachment for it. So for a lot of below the knee prosthetics, it's like a 4 bolt mounting pattern on the bottom. So we're making. I have a friend who works at a 3D printing shop out in the Detroit area. He 3D printed a prototype leg for that. So
Wow.
have options come. unbound.
Uh, what was I just thinking? I was just like, oh, yeah, attaching to your leg. Like,
Mhm.
because that needs to be pretty solid if you're going to be pulling up, powering
Yeah.
down, I can see. But what does the attachment look like?
Yeah.
Because yeah.
So there's a few different methods. The popular ones are vacuum and pin.
Okay,
So the
pin.
um yeah, it's kind of like um how do I describe this? It's like
Do you have your leg close?
yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Throw
I
up
was
your
thinking
leg.
video
Come
or not.
on, Liz. Come on,
Um
Kai.
yeah, give me a second. I can just take off
It's like
like
a
right
little
now.
show and tell here.
Yeah. So so this is a pen. So I use a pen. So
Oh,
like there's these
okay.
little ridges, and then
Yeah.
depending on
You
how far it'll just catch on that level, depend and then like the prosthetic, the way it's designed will prevent me from sinking in too much. Um, so it'll just go in at a certain amount, and that's how I hold it. So that's how I rely on like just this and like the way the prosthetic is designed to pull up.
okay, so the other attachment on
Mhm.
your leg,
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to throw your leg up there.
So
Oh,
it goes in here essentially. It'll be like
oh, I see. Okay, so but then how does it? Okay, so everybody, if you want to flip over to YouTube, you can definitely get a great visual. Kai is showing us his foot leg. Now, I, I still like the attaching to your leg to make sure your leg doesn't pull
mhm.
out of the sleeve
Yeah.
that's attached to your leg.
Yeah.
That makes it like,
So this part, those the
yeah,
one,
that part.
yeah. It's kind of like a gel silicone on the inside. Um,
Oh, so it doesn't really move once it's
yeah, it's very grippy unless you get really sweaty. So like, at
this is
mid-south,
like neoprene,
yeah,
kind
kind
of.
of. It's like those finger traps where you stick your fingers in and you can't really pull it out if you're pulling out from both sides.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
kind of like that.
Yes.
Yeah, but like there have been like a handful of incidences, less than like five, where like it's gotten so hot or I've been riding for so long where like sweat will accumulate and the leg will just slip off.
Oh,
Not fun, usually results in me crashing. So
yeah.
I try to be a bit more mindful and on longer rides I'll bring like a spare cloth or something just so I can stop, wipe it down, and then get back
Right,
on.
right, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that is super cool. Now, I was going to ask, now, so that leg, it pivots, does it pivot at the ankle?
Yeah, so this one here, I can take off the sock. I usually just keep a sock on it just because it prevents the wear and tear, and also like
Right, and getting
flips
dust in
of the
it and stuff.
shoes a lot easier. Actually, the socks is a great friction reducer. So this one is kind of like a running,
Oh,
but we
yes.
put a foam shell around it. But this
Okay.
whole entire thing will act as like an ankle and fulcrum when I'm like jogging and stuff.
Okay, so if everybody's watching, if you're not watching for a visual who are listening, if you've ever seen those prosthetic legs, the running legs, like the sprinters that have it, this is kind of like that.
Hmm.
It edges out into like a J, and then the foot part or the I guess the foam for the foot is attached to the bottom. So I see how it springs down. I was thinking more of like um like a bolt, like how it would kind of, but this is much better, right?
Yeah,
Because
I
it
like
just
this one a
springs
lot.
out.
I got this one about a year ago, give or take. Um, I love it. It's fantastic.
And then do you run with that foot part on it, or do you slip it off and then you can run with?
Oh, I run. So there's another carbon blade here, which you can tell. There's like
Oh,
another
okay.
carbon.
Yes, the
So this
heel.
has stability on the heel, but this foam is kind of like glued on, so it's not really removable.
Okay, okay.
I'll just put a normal running shoe on here.
Right. Okay. Because I'm just visualizing, the other running
Mhm.
type that I guess are like that, but they're more like an S, I think. They're not
Yeah, there's
they're
like a straight J that goes down.
yeah, yeah. Or it's like backwards. Anyways, but it's just a little different than that. Super cool. Okay, so that is your walking foot. So I can see how like you prefer doing other things than walking.
Yeah.
Transportation, getting around. Um, so tell us, like, what is your, so you got, when did you join the US para athlete team?
Yeah. So I'm not actually on the US para athlete team. There's like a
Oh,
separate team
okay.
USA, and then there's people,
Right?
and then there's nationals for
Right?
paracycling, and
Oh,
then
paracycle. Okay.
yeah, and then there's like you have to go to a few World Cup events and a few other
Right.
races where they'll look at your results, and then that's how they select people for like the Paralympics, who are coming up this year,
Right.
and the Paracycling World Cups, which happen like 3 times a year. So they were just down in Australia for the first World Cup, and the next two
Uh-huh.
will be in Europe in May. Um,
So is that something on your radar? Or is that kind of
it's
like
definitely
being
on my
an
radar.
attorney? You fit
No,
that in?
we'll make that. My colleagues and the partners have been very accommodating of my schedule thus far. So tryouts for the Team USA for the World Cups, uh, or the Paracycling National Team, I should say, is this April. So I'll be
Okay.
down in Texas for that. Um,
Cool.
I think it actually coincides with like the lunar or solar eclipse down there this year or something like that. So that should,
Wow.
and then based on the results, they'll select the national paracycling team for the World Cup, which will then in turn help determine who gets to go to Paris this year for paracycling.
Ooh, that would be
So
cool. Now, are you like as an attorney, are you able to work remotely? Would that help?
I am, yeah. So that definitely makes it a lot more convenient. The few friends that I've traveled for racing with, uh, you know, one of them seen me like stay up until like 2, 3 a.m., sleep for 3 hours, and then go up and race the next day.
Oh my gosh.
Just kind of the life.
Oh yeah. Just getting a little bit done before you're like, oh, that deadline, then oh my God, that race.
Um,
Bet you don't do that often though.
yeah, definitely not that often. There's definitely just been a few like, either tight deadlines or like terrible time management on my part sometimes.
Well, that's kind of cool that you can still work and pursue your passion. So, what is your, I guess, itinerary for this year?
So I have a training camp in March at
Oh, cool.
St. Louis Obispo, Slow in California, which I'm looking forward to.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it'll be like 8 days out there, and then like the weekend right after will be the Para World Cup
Mm.
tryouts in
Okay.
and then I'll be at Barry Roubaix because I worked with
Oh,
the
I
organizer
saw that.
to add a paracycling category this year. So
Yeah. So you talked to Matt about getting that
yeah,
added?
Jenny and Matt are fantastic people.
Oh
So
my God. I saw that on your Instagram. I'm like, because I didn't see,
mhm.
because I joined, I signed up. So we'll have to see each other again.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm doing the 100, sorry, 62 mile.
Oh, same.
I wasn't fast enough to get into the 100 mile. Oh my God, it was sold out in like a blink of an eye. I was like, what? What? What?
It's definitely I think
Oh
it
my
sold
God.
out really quick this year. I mean, it sells out
Yeah.
there, but like this year was like 48 hours, I want to say.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last year is like right after, I think like end of January, it was sold out
Yeah.
or February, but this was like unbelievably fast.
Did you
I
go?
was just, hot. Pardon?
Did you go to Barry last year?
Yeah, so this will be my third year
Yeah.
and I interviewed Matt
Hmm.
like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and that's how I'd heard about it. And he happened to be part of an interview for Coast to Coast with Mark, and because he was like one of his route advisors. And then I'm like, Matt, and he's like, yeah, I'm the owner of Barry Roubaix. I'm like, what? And so I ended up interviewing him for Barry-Roubaix. And then I'm like, hey, that's super cool. And I checked it out. I'm like, oh, that's only 14 hours from my house. That's probably about the maximum I drive for an event. But so I went down by myself
Mhm.
the first year because it was just at the end of COVID. And I'm like, oh my God, I've just got to drive somewhere. I didn't care where I was. I was like driving to this place. I got lost in New York State. Anyways, but I met some girls that I'd known from another group there. And so it was super fun. And then I'm like, okay, I'm coming back with some more girls. I came back with three other friends. And then this year we've got a couple girls going again. And yeah, I loved the vibe. And I was like, I'd do something out of Canada. But it's super exciting that they've added that. So I was just thinking maybe I should hit up Matt to talk about that on an episode for
Yeah,
a
yeah,
podcast.
they've been very nice. I rode it last year, which was last year was really warm. It was like 85 degrees the entire day.
Yeah, it was nice, way nicer than the year before, which is like -5, and it snowed the night before.
Because I
Like,
remember they were very worried about like the sand sections, which like arguably sucks with the
yeah,
prosthetic because like I would sink into the sand.
uh-huh.
It's doable, and like I think
It's
if
not that long.
it's not
Like,
that long. It
yeah,
is 62 mile. There's only like two sand sections. I think about
yeah.
half a mile each, give or take. And I think on average, I would say like most of the racers out there are really nice and always willing to help out. So like,
Hmm.
it should be a fun time. There's three people signed up in the paracycling category this year,
Are
including
there?
yeah.
Like
Uh,
how many spots did they reserve for uh para athletes? Is it just one category that they're opening for para athletes, or is it like across the board?
it's just one category, which I think is fine. Most gravel races only have one category right now, anyways.
Right.
Uh,
Is that the 62 mile?
Yeah, so they're all in.
Okay.
I didn't check the paracycling categories for the other distances, but I should take a look at that. But it should be fun. I know one of the other guys going. I've raced against him before. He's really fast, actually. And I don't know the third person, but regardless, it'll be a fun time.
It'd be like always knowing everybody on the start line,
Yeah,
especially if you're in the same category,
it's not a big
right?
category, so for sure.
Wow, that's super exciting. So then what are you doing after Barry-Roubaix? Because that's
That's
April.
April.
Yeah.
So in May, there's a few local Chicago races I'll be doing. There's a practice crit series down here, which I try to go to every year. And then my team's also hopefully going to be putting on a few practice crits ourselves just to give back to the South Side community in Chicago. And
Right.
then June, we'll see about Unbound. Um, and then let's see what's after that. Gravel Nationals in September, hopefully.
Okay.
Which is like 131 miles, give or take, in Nebraska. And I'm also looking at Gravel Worlds, which looks fun in August
Oh,
in Lincoln, Nebraska.
yeah,
And
those guys are fun.
yeah, I've never been to,
Like,
I've driven through Nebraska a few times, so I've never like ridden my bike there. So it'll be a
is it
nice.
like whereabouts in Nebraska is it? Is that
So
near Omaha?
Gravel Worlds is near Omaha. So Lincoln's, I think, only a few hours away,
Okay.
maybe less. And then yeah, there's a few like local road races around here sprinkled throughout the season, and maybe a Big Sugar. We'll see.
Well, it sounds like you got a good itinerary on the like to be ready to be confirmed.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, that's super good. So is there anything else you want to share? Oh, um, let's talk about this is what I wanted to talk about as well,
Mhm.
is your advocacy for para athletes and cycling and some of the organizations that you're and I guess I don't know working for or advocating with, or can you share a little bit about that? So if somebody who is in, you know, is going through what you've gone through, or is still looking for a prosthetic, how they can go about getting themselves. a prosthetic? Because I know some of them, they're very expensive. Um, can you share a lot with that?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely prosthetics aren't cheap. I would say like with the average, at least with below the knee, prices, you're looking at minimum low five figures. So
Mm.
that's the equivalent of like getting a full spec out, Dura-Ace SRAM red level bike
A
with
car.
everything like, yeah, or like a car. So there's definitely a lot of great groups out there. So last year I joined ACG, which is the Adaptive Climbers Group. They have a few chapters throughout the nation. And even if you're at a city where they don't have a chapter at, they're fantastic people. And I highly encourage everyone to reach out.
What's ACG?
Adaptive Climbing Group.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah.
There you
So
go.
it's the rock
Adaptive
climbing group
climbing.
I got started with.
Okay.
Fantastic group of people. And then generally, there isn't anything specific for cycling like that I'm aware of yet. Um, but Wiggle Your Toes, the Challenge Athlete Foundation, and Team
Oh,
Catapult all have grants that applicants can apply to, whether it's support for, funding to go to races, or it's equipment, or like a new leg or something like that. Like if you want a running blade, that's a fantastic avenue to get one. I remember when I was in school still, the Challenge Athlete Foundation gave me a grant to get my first power meter so I could start training for races more seriously, as an adaptive athlete. And
cool.
so I would definitely reach out to all three of them. And then for triathlon, there's also Dare to Try, which is based out of Chicago. Um, I've met and ridden with some of their members, and they're like really wonderful, nice people. So I'd encourage that. They put on clinics locally in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Indiana. Um, and yeah, and obviously, if anyone ever has questions, they're more than welcome to reach out to me over social media. I've been talking with a guy on Hawaii recently, helping him. He's an older gentleman who was a time trialist, and he's getting back into it after his amputation. So it's been great, chatting with him and like getting him back on his feet.
Very cool. Now, we will have the links in his bio and Kai's bio. So if you missed a couple, we're definitely going to add them there so you can access them and share them with friends or a friend if you know somebody who needs a little bit more motivation to get into looking for a way to get a prosthetic or upgrading or into sports with prosthetics, because I know like I'm pretty sure you could probably um, find almost all sports that there are, athletes with prosthetics. I'm guessing now these days. Would you say?
Yeah,
Like there's
definitely.
just more prevalent.
I think the Paralympics have done a fantastic job
Yeah.
representation, and that was one of the avenues I got into cycling as well. Was 2016 was the year I got a bike, and it was also the year of Rio. I want to say, I think, yeah, it was Rio.
Oh, Rio. Yeah.
So
Cool. So, all right. Well, do you have any last words for us, Kai, before we um close up the podcast?
um, I think for all the adaptive athletes and just athletes in general, I think you have to be very conscious of your body, and you know push yourself. Like you're always capable of doing more than what you think you can do.
Hmm.
Because I think prosthetics aren't as advanced as human limbs, but they're advanced enough where that shouldn't be your limiting factor. So even with a standard leg, without a dedicated sports prosthesis, like just go out there, abuse it. It's fine. That's a good part of prosthetics. If they break,
You can fix it, or you could
exactly.
change the foot. And also, not to just to mention like legs, but there are arms. I've
Hmm.
seen lots of, maybe not lots, but a fair amount of cyclists who have prosthetic arms that have lots of adaptive handlebars for them, which I think is just amazing. Um, and there's trikes out there as well, because I've seen our para athletes here in Canada. There's not a lot of them, so that's why like highly recommend, if you're into sport and you want to be do something really crazy, is just go and apply for being on the para athlete team,
Yeah.
because you just never know. Um, I'll just say a little story. My daughter is visually impaired, and we reached out to Canadian para-athletes and signed her up. But the thing is, like you said, you have to qualify, you have to train. One of the most competitive fields in para-athletes is visually impaired, because it could be any kind of visual impairment. You don't have to be blind. It could be any kind, and you have to be on a tandem bike. So what they did is they just showed up in Ottawa, dropped off a tandem bike for us. It was We had to like reset it up because it was for two guys, and we were like two, like she's a teenager and I'm like 7, and we had to change the handlebars, the seats, everything. But the thing is that we were able to train, and the thing is you have to train and then compete, and then it's timing, and um, but still, like, it's totally doable, and they are looking for athletes. I know in Canada they are, to build the team. Because as people, there are para athletes who've been there for many years, and eventually they're going to retire. So I like wish you so much luck in your trials
Thank you.
to get on the team. I think that's amazing, and I'm really sure that we should meet in next fall to see how everything went.
Yeah.
Would you come back?
Absolutely. I think next fall will be great. It'll be end of the season, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll have Barry and all the other gravel events to talk about because I'll probably run
Yeah.
into you at least more than once this season,
I
guaranteed.
know, and we'll have to see each other again, take some photos,
Yeah.
and just talk more openly on social media about this, because I think it's just something that needs to be shared more and more within our sport.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think adaptive sports have come a long way.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
as you were saying, within cycling, there's 13 or 14 different categories
Yeah.
alone. Um, so you have the uprights, you have people with one arm, no arms, and then you have the hand cyclists,
Yeah.
and then you have the tandems and the tricycles. It's fantastic community with like a wealth of resources. So
Oh my God, I have to mention this. That I just thought of it. I met a couple girls at our local downhill mountain bike
mhm,
ski hill, and both of them are wheelchair bound,
mhm.
but you should have seen these trikes that they were on.
Oh, they're
Like,
amazing, aren't they? The
oh my
off-road
God, they were
bicycles.
electric too. They were
I
electric
love it.
because they were downhill mountain bikes. They were like hand
Mhm.
driven.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God. So I'm still trying to reach out to those girls. But I was just like, wow. Go from your wheelchair to um a mountain bike like that,
Mhm.
and to downhill face first. I was like, I can't even imagine. You know what I mean? But it was just so inspiring to see. And then you see more of these articles in like um cycling magazines, and more people doing that. And I'm just like, that's crazy. But if they can do it, I mean, the sky's the limit, I think, these days.
Oh,
Well,
absolutely.
it's beginning to be more like that.
Oh, for sure.
So
I definitely agree.
all right. Well, I just want to thank you so much, Kai, for being a guest on the podcast, and I look forward to seeing you at Barry Roubaix. We'll stay in contact about that, and I'll tell you where you can find me so that we can definitely I'll have a tent there. I'll be at a tent, and we'll cheer each other on.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We'll be in the same race, so it'll be a good time.
We will be in the same race, depending on when you start. And yeah, we'll definitely be in the same race, and hopefully you'll see you at Unbound as well, because that's always a good one. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much. And make sure that you go and check this out on YouTube if you want a good visual for Kai was showing his leg. And also to follow us on Instagram and YouTube for all the podcast episodes go up there. And Kai, you're on Instagram.
I am.
Leg 0 less.
Yeah, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. So
yeah, I was like, oh, that's cute. Is that the only place you are right now?
I'm also on Strava.
Oh yeah, Strava. What's your handle on Strava?
It's the same. I mean,
it's the same? Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's the same. If not, you can probably search up Kai Luan and find me. But yeah,
that's what I did.
If any, para athletes or friends or family of para athletes or people who are interested, I highly encourage you to reach out, even if you just want to say hi or have any questions.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Have a great day, everybody. Bye. All right, friends, before you go, please make sure that you go to secretsfromthesaddlepodcast.ca and join our newsletter so that you don't miss another episode. And so I just hope you really enjoyed Kai's interview and just learning more about the ability to be more out there if you happen to find yourself in that position where you have lost a limb. It is not for nothing. You can definitely be able to become an able-bodied person with the use of the new prosthetics that are coming out. So check out the description. We have added some links, thanks to Kai, where you can actually apply to get a bursary or funding for a prosthetic limb. And so let that not be your the thing that stops you from doing what you love to do. So with that, have an amazing day. Make sure that you sign up for our newsletter, which means that you'll get notification every time a podcast is launched at secretsfromthesaddlepodcast.ca. Thanks a lot and have yourself a most amazing day. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on the Secrets from the Saddle podcast, learning more about sighting people, places, and things that make cycling such an exciting sport. I am so glad you stopped by today. Please leave me a review if you feel so moved to do so. I would love to hear your feedback. And if you could take 1 second to share this episode with someone you think would enjoy it, I would be forever grateful. Also, if you could please leave me a review if you feel so moved by going to iTunes and leaving me an honest thought and an honest comment, telling me what you think, and most importantly, tell me what you'd like to hear more of. It would really help me to bring more great, inspiring cycling stories to you. Until then, have an amazing day, make sure you ride your bike, and don't forget to visit my YouTube channel if you'd like to see the full version of this podcast live.